Yeah, jung, chugga jung, jung, chugga jung, jung, chugga jung.
Welcome to Cordkillers. The world of entertainment is turned upside down, and we are just trying to find out how to watch what we want, where we want, whenever we want. I'm Tom Merritt. Brian, where's the good stuff?
I'll tell you what, right here in the room, make some noise. This is our usual format.
That's right. We're always in front of a group of amazing creators when we do Cordkillers.
That's
It always
right.
have been, Brian.
Yeah, man. We are live at the Do Your Weird Thing workshop that we've been hyping on our website, bestnewsever.com. It's finally the promised future day is today. How's it feeling, man?
It's feeling great. How are you feeling?
Oh my gosh, a little bit out of sorts. It all seems so monumental, and now it happened. It's in fact the only way this could get any better is if my co-host from Great Night, Justin Robert Young, were here.
Well, guess what?
Hey, did somebody say me?
Did someone say C-SPAN?
Yeah, we actually have real stories. We just got done in the pre-show for everybody here. We explained kind of our process, and hopefully we'll share it with you guys as well. But to everyone here live in studio, Cordkillers is a new show that was originally about the death of cable. And then guess what? Cable died, and now it's a new show about, now that cable's dead, where do we find good entertainment?
You can still visit cable in the hospital, but you should probably start saying your goodbyes.
You can send your thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. Well, let's start. Our first segment is always like our big story, our big discussion, a chance for Brian to go galaxy brain. It's our supply run.
Supply run, supply run. Where's the beef?
So I actually heard this story first on Politics with Justin Robert Young. However, it was also in the LA Times. C-SPAN took in $46.3 million in 2024, but is now running a deficit. And the reason is because of that aforementioned death of cable. As cable stops bringing in the money, C-SPAN gets less per subscriber because there's fewer subscribers. So what C-SPAN's trying to do is say, hey, everybody's doing this cord cutting thing. Maybe you should carry us on the cord-cutting things like YouTube TV and Hulu. DirecTV Stream does carry C-SPAN, but it's not carried on Hulu Live. It's not carried on YouTube TV. And as many of you probably know, every other cable service in the country carried C-SPAN. If you don't know what C-SPAN is, it's the Congress. You get to watch the Senate and the House do their thing in live time. So you can see debates, you can see votes. You can even see committee meetings. They have a bunch of other programming. In fact, Justin, you're probably better explaining the rest of that than I am.
Sure. So C-SPAN is traditionally 3 channels. The first one covered the House live. The second covered the Senate. And the third essentially covers everything else in the world of American politics. And sometimes international politics. They will oftentimes cover international big events. But everywhere during a big presidential primary campaign, for example, they are carrying pool coverage or they have sent their own cameras that will be there. It is the platonic ideal of a newsroom that is literally just carrying the stuff. There's no commentary except for a call-in show that has famously unhinged callers, which is a little bit of spice to the otherwise staid nature.
But there's
of
no
C-SPAN.
commentary from C-SPAN itself.
No punditry at all.
And, as a matter of fact, if I could do a quick poll, raise your hands in the audience if up until this moment you thought C-SPAN was a government-funded operation. Oh,
Yeah,
one person.
we got at least one.
I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I totally. I thought it was like our BBC basically, but that's not the case.
No, it is powered by cable, which used to be their slogan. Essentially, as cable was becoming a dominant media force, the government was concerned about the idea of the loss of public access television, which used to be a part of the charter that you would have for broadcasting into homes in your designated area, that you would have to lay out a certain amount of time that the public could have access to the airways. And so one of the things that cable did to preempt that was say, okay, we're going to make a commitment to public affairs programming. Part of this story is how cable runs, which is odd to other media outlets in that the creator does not pay the outlet to cover them. The outlet pays the creators. So a cable channel let's say ESPN, which invented this model, gets paid from each cable outlet a certain amount of dollars per subscriber. So ESPN, because they were the first, has always been the most paid because they've been able to renegotiate at the end of their contracts. They're now like 17 to 20 something dollars. It's always changed because they're adding more channels, blah, blah, blah. C-SPAN essentially, at the beginning of all this, said, cool, all the cable companies got together. They said, we're going to fund public affairs programming at the gigantic price of 7 cents per subscriber. So when you add up all the cable subscribers, 7 cents per subscriber adds up to, across all these cable companies that were involved, what C-SPAN's budget was. And that allowed them to expand to 3 channels and create a media entity and a, by and large, beloved organization. But like Tom mentioned, as people no longer have cable, that means that there are less 7 cents chunks that have gone away.
At its peak, there were more than 100 million cable subscribers in the U.S. Now it's less than 30 million.
And so they are now at a crossroads because with cable dying, they're looking to where cable subscribers are going after being led down a dangerous path by certain Pied Pipers to kill their cords.
Uh-oh.
I don't know who he's talking about.
We're still looking. We're trying to figure out who did this, guys.
And so what they want is to be carried at a similar price, a 7 cents per consumer thing, on the emerging platforms that are taking these customers. And those primarily are consolidated versions. There used to be more. Now it's pretty much just YouTube TV and Hulu Plus Live. They would like to be carried as public affairs programming. Now, both of those two entities are not cable. They didn't have to face the same pressure from the public as the death of public access was coming. They are now coming from it from a totally different perspective. And to be totally honest with you, television isn't even really their main business. We are talking about Disney and Google. They make their money doing other things other than being new cable things. They kind of fell into this industry. So they don't have the same urgency that, let's say, cable had. What we have been told in my interview with Sam Feist, the CEO of C-SPAN, on this week's Politics episode, is that what they would like is to be able to have ads on C-SPAN. That would be anathema to C-SPAN's mission. They have been ad-free on cable their entire time. And
if I could just interject, that is normal for the carrier, whether it's your cable company or YouTube TV, to say, as we pay you to carry your channel, we would like to run a few ads of our own in your ad breaks. And C-SPAN's like, that's great, we don't have ad breaks.
Yes. They are also worried that specifically C-SPAN would be a target for influence because while C-SPAN is not the most watched channel on the planet, everybody who does watch it is involved or very, very interested or highly engaged in the government. If you've ever flown into Ronald Reagan Airport or JFK and saw a bunch of ads for things that were like, your cell phone is yours, call your senator. And you're like, what the hell is that about? It's because it's lobbyists that are trying to affect certain bills that they don't advertise anywhere else. They advertise in these places that they know legislative aides and politicians are walking through. And so they're worried about that. But also they just don't want this to be different. They don't want to be in the middle of the Kavanaugh hearing, for example, which was one of their most highly watched moments, and for there to be an ad that dynamically pops up for,
beer.
Beer.
They could say we don't take political ads, though, right?
Well, but they
could
would
just
not
block out that category.
Well,
No,
okay,
they wouldn't. They wouldn't, because these are dynamic ads that would be sold by.
But couldn't they make that part of the agreement?
They could theoretically,
but that doesn't. The heart of the problem is if you define a category, then you open up squirrely behavior. It's like, well, this is not a political ad. It just so happened that O'Doul's is a red.
It's a technology ad because it's about cell phones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And so they have tried. Sam came on as CEO last fall. He is their second CEO in the history of the company, just to give you a sense of how stable this organization is. And he has gone on a pretty, for C-SPAN, aggressive campaign to raise public pressure to have these new kings of the industry make the same commitment that the old kings of the industry made, which is a commitment to public affairs programming because it is the right thing to do. And in a world of dollars and cents, that's hard. It's hard to make a company like Google or a company like Disney do anything for quote unquote the right reasons.
The bad news, though, is that these services are not growing either.
Yes. Which is where we kind of come into a larger problem with the industry writ large, because part of the reason why your cable bill kept getting more and more and more expensive is because everybody kept renegotiating their deals and everybody always wanted a raise. If you were not getting a raise, then you were not doing the fiduciary duty for your likely publicly traded company, and that was a problem. So
it's one of the reasons Tech TV got sold, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody wanted to keep making money, and so everybody did, but that meant that your cable bill got more and more expensive, and eventually you looked at your cable bill and you said, this sucks. Wait, can I do this cheaper? And YouTube TV and Hulu were like, yes, for $20 a month, you can only buy what you want. What they're finding is the same thing that cable found, which is that it actually makes more of an attractive package to bundle all these things together. And so YouTube TV started in the, 20s? And now is at $75, $80, depending on what you add on to it. Hulu is going to be the exact same way. So
also, people just don't watch TV that way. More and more, they're watching YouTube, they're watching TikTok, they're watching Instagram, they're watching linear
content.
TV.
They're not watching live content.
If they're watching linear TV, it might be Pluto or Tubi or something like that.
And you're also going to see some of the biggest things that people watch live TV for, like ESPN, are going to go over the top with their own service. So now, while a la carte via these organizations may be falling out of favor, a la carte from each of these big channels that you would buy these services for are going to be offering their own a la carte offering. So it's a very, very interesting time, and I worry for C-SPAN because I very much like their product. I think it is important to have, especially on the political side, an outlet that does not want to push an agenda via punditry. But even if they make these deals, I don't know if it really solves their problem long term.
I think they should also be going after fast services to carry them, like somehow.
If they could make a deal,
FAST stands for free ad-supported television. So
if they could make
those are the channels where it's like, Gunsmoke is playing 24 hours a day. It's one of those where a switch gets flipped, rights are acquired, and just it's akin to the smaller broadcast networks on the UHF dial back in the day.
But that would be an even harder deal to make because they don't pay for anything.
They don't pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say like, hey, do you want to upload your stuff to our platform? We will jam random ads for, now that's what I call Music 75. And that's that. That's the way that they make money. Now, maybe a comprehensive plan with because Pluto's owned by Fox now.
Yeah. Paramount.
Paramount.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tubi's owned by Fox.
Tubi's owned by Fox. Maybe there's something that can be done there where they're covering it ad free, but or, and this is the more scary thing for them, C-SPAN becomes a publicly funded organization, and I don't know if they'd be able to do things on the same level that they do them now.
Do they have a Patreon?
They do not have a Patreon. They have had fundraising drives that we have been very, very happy on my show and We're Not Wrong and Congressional Dish and the Political Orphanage to help promote. But this is a new world, and you would hope. I know all of us as internet optimists would hope that beautiful things could thrive in an open market, but they are very much an old media organization. They're in the same building that NBC is at in DC. They're at the same building that Meet the Press films out of, that Fox News Sunday films out of, that everybody, that all the big boys, they all broadcast out of one building. C-SPAN is there. is that going to be the case for them forever? I don't know.
Yeah. And they do podcasts, and those podcasts are ad-supported. They do a YouTube channel. They just don't put all of their content on YouTube. I think one of the most valuable things they do is the archive. You can go onto C-SPAN's website, and you can find anything that happened in Congress since they've been documenting it, and some things from before C-SPAN existed that they have collected in the public domain. So it's an incredible historical resource.
Yep.
Brian, how do we solve this?
You go to patreon.com/Cordkillers and you keep us loud, live, and independent. I mean, unless I literally, I'm enjoying this show.
But you don't have the solution either. Nobody does.
No,
right?
no. Well, okay. So in the spirit of the class that we're talking about, like the form matters insofar as there's the universe is hungry for the raw feed, right? We all wish that we had a seat or at least a trusted friend who was there in Congress, keeping an eye on everything so that everybody had access to it. But cable was, past tense, a very convenient artifact where enough money was flowing. Everybody could agree, 7 cents per person seems reasonable. And I don't have a solution.
Well, is the solution to get attention on C-SPAN from people who don't already pay attention to C-SPAN?
I don't know what that. I think a more practical. If the whole C-SPAN organization is based on the general idea of you've got a thing everybody has, nobody seems to mind tacking on 7 cents to it. The new question becomes, what's another thing that everybody has? A solution that I could think of is C-SPAN should maybe lobby Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, or whatever, and say everyone has a cell phone. Would you all join the Support C-SPAN Alliance and pledge to carve off a very tiny amount to keep us afloat? And then because these are non-political organizations and because they're doing it for what is generally perceived as a pro-social good, they all get to flash the pro C-SPAN logo on there. Now, this is the equivalent of essentially putting NASCAR stickers on the news, but if you're gonna,
you can get Netflix through your cable, through your phone subscription. You can get Apple TV Plus through your phone subscription. Why not offer people C-SPAN through it?
I think, I agree.
Yeah, I would wonder whether or not they would look. I mean, especially as a lot of these platforms are leaning more and more into live. If they would look to a Netflix, they would look to a Max, they would look to something.
That would be a coup for Netflix.
You know what? What if? Strange thing. What if C-SPAN were
Stranger
able to
things
was able to position itself as the test pattern of choice for live tests? So it's like C-SPAN now provides essentially color bars that are every single. They become the standard. They become Pantone of live streaming that you could compare when you're comparing services. C-SPAN is the gold standard feed by which you could compare lag, by which you could compare color depth.
Oh, you put them on
compression.
speed test.
Yes, they become.
That's interesting.
They become the quality test of choice for live streaming.
I mean,
for
I think
funding purposes.
Yeah, for them, they're like, cool, that's great.
Does that
everybody pay us 7 cents?
Does
per...
Ookla give us enough money to make that work?
Yeah, I think like what they would want is the ability to say, we are public affairs programming that enriches everybody. We cover politics, but we are not political. If you want to be up on your world, you can always make sure that you turn on C-SPAN because we are going to give it to you straight. And so therefore, everybody that is a subscriber to anything that can stream live video, we would like to give you access to 3 channels of C-SPAN for 7 cents per subscriber for a public affairs good. Now, what they want to do is create an environment where that is rewarded, and to that end, they have had it's a non-binding resolution, but it was like a statement from the Senate that came out last week where across party lines, I believe it was A.B. Klobuchar and Chuck Grassley said, C-SPAN is great. Public affairs programming has a place in our modern media world. Everybody should carry this. My hope for them is that they do make a deal where it is traditionally made in places like Hulu and YouTube TV, and then they can go to Netflix and everybody else and say, hey, what about you guys too?
Yeah, because I'm with you. I hope they get a deal from Disney. I hope they get a deal from Google of some sort, but that's not going to solve the problem. That's just going to give them that's going to buy them some time, basically.
Yeah, I mean, my personal wish, and it's hard to tell a bunch of people who have come out of the 80s and have an idea of like what money is and what stability is from an era that, you know, where it was very, very plentiful for decades, that like, no, you need to come where I am. Let me teach you the rugged worlds of like an independent brand. C-SPAN should be an awesome independent brand.
You know what? Actually, I know a workshop that maybe C-SPAN would want to send some people to.
I've talked to them behind the scenes, and look, it's hard to go from knowing where money's coming from to not knowing where money's coming from, and they have a huge operation.
And this is one of those unsung problems of the transition to streaming, because their entire business was built on that cable platform. It's not something you want the government to fund, because you don't want the government to have the influence. You want them to be able to have.
I don't think it will ever be funded by the government. I think that is something that only is thought of because nobody else can wrap their head around why this exists in the way that it exists, and so you just default to like, oh, it's the government.
What the government could do is pass a law that says people have to carry it. That's probably the only thing C-SPAN would be okay with.
Well, and even then, it probably wouldn't come to a law. It would just be like pressure.
Yeah.
It would just be made known.
Honestly, I think Netflix would have a coup if they said, you know, we're gonna provide a large percentage of funding to C-SPAN and encourage others to carry it as well and provide funding to them.
It would be amazing to have Washington Journal be at the Tudum event.
Ta-dum.
Yeah. That'd be great. Just C-SPAN callers while the cast of Stranger Things is on set. That'd be amazing.
You know who I bet will have very good ideas? The fine listeners who can write us at cordkillers@gmail.com.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, damn
write
right.
in.
Nah, we don't pay attention to them. We pay attention to the patrons,
Well, it's
don't we?
interesting having a live audience because, like, are we performing for our usual audience who's going to listen to this, or are we performing for the people in the room?
Yes.
No, it's the usual audience.
Or are we performing for Justin?
We are performing
Don't
for the
perform for
usual
me.
audience, Justin.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't listen to the show. No, I don't.
No, we are performing for the usual audience with the mind that the folks in the room are getting to see how the sausage
They're watching us.
is made.
Yeah.
We
But they're
should
also
make sausage.
judging us.
Yep.
How are we doing?
A little delayed. We got room to
Applause.
work.
There was a minute.
We got room
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah.
Confusion is the enemy. In
Yeah.
that moment, it was not clear whether or not they. Now, watch this. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to finish this sentence, and they're going to go freaking nuts. Still soft.
How do we fund this show, Ryan?
We are funded by our patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/cordkillers. You can keep us loud, live, and independent. You get early access to the full experience. That's where we watch the first, ultimate, lowest rated, and the last episode of a series. And you get exclusive access to After Talk, which we won't have this week because we're doing a live event.
That's right. Well, unless we do it later.
You know what? Just for the patrons.
If we get enough patrons between now and Tuesday, we'll do it later.
Patreon.com/cordkillers.
Let's move on to the search party. How many of you?
Something. Most people want to know how they got rich. Buried treasure.
No, that's buried treasure.
Oh, wait. No,
That's the wrong segment.
I hit the wrong button. Sorry. Ricola.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
Any James Bond fans in the audience here? Yeah. No, a few. All right. Amazon's MGM. How many people didn't know Amazon owned MGM?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazon
a lot more
owned-
than there are James Bond fans.
The James Bond fans knew. I noticed that. MGM announced that Denis Villeneuve, the guy who directed Arrival and the Dune movies, is going to be the next director of the James Bond
That's
movies.
right. Buckle up for sad, dour, pensive James Bond.
Villeneuve says, I grew up watching James Bond films with my father ever since Dr. No with Sean Connery. I'm a diehard Bond fan. To me, he's sacred territory. I intend to honor the tradition and open the path for many new missions to come. This is a massive responsibility, but also incredibly exciting for me and a huge honor.
Yeah, so we had speculated.
That's a lot of words for cha-ching.
We had speculated about some of the directions. This is the new novel project that they're doing.
So, yeah, the big deal was MGM acquired, or Amazon acquired MGM and got the Bond franchise. The Broccoli family has controlled the Bond franchise with MGM's cooperation. And there was a little tussle that MGM won. And now the Broccoli family has agreed to reduce their role. And the next thing we know is Denis Villeneuve.
Yep. And do we know any specifics? We had heard of it being a period piece back in the 1960s, but again, none
I
of
think
this
that's a lot of
officially-
like ideas that were thrown around in the room before Amazon decided to kick the Broccolis out. So
Yeah.
who knows what's going to stick now that they hired Villeneuve.
Yes. For those of you who missed, well, actually, you know what? Go back and listen to old episodes.
Then the next question is Timothy Chalamet as the next James Bond, or what do we?
I don't know, man. Do you really want a skeleton playing?
Who does Denis
He can play
Villeneuve?
anything.
Really?
He's the
You're
best.
you're into him
I'm
as
all
Bond?
in on Chalamet.
Yeah?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, like, I didn't think he was going to be good as Bob Dylan. He crushed it as Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Like, he was on college football game day and, like, crushed. He was awesome. He was just, like, confidently making sports picks. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Chalamet, I was not familiar with your game. Now, can he play Bond? It would seem to be odd. He's not British. He doesn't have a rugged sensibility.
Right.
He wouldn't be credible fighting people. But I think he's the greatest of all time. So maybe.
Amy Adams? I'm just picking people from Villeneuve movies.
Oh, yeah.
An alien?
I mean, Gosling would be the
Ryan Gosling?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also not British.
not British,
Yeah.
but at least he's like above 4 feet.
Hey, 4 feet is a lot for some people.
Yeah. I mean, there is like a list. There's like a betting list.
Yeah.
Of
There's
people
odds
that
on
are.
this.
But it's
any
mostly Brits.
favorites for Bond in the audience? No.
Who'd be a good Bond?
Idris Elba.
Idris Elba, yeah.
has perennially mentioned that he started saying he was too old for Bond 10 years ago, and I don't think he's DH'd yet.
So Q.
Oh, he would be a fantastic Q.
That'd be pretty cool.
No.
Yeah. No? Why
Idris
not?
Elba.
An M. I
Oh,
think,
M's better.
I think
M's
he would
better.
be a better M than a Q.
Yeah.
Q's kind of nerdy.
Yeah,
Could be
You
a
think
play-
Idris
playing
Elba's
against-
like fumbling with
Timothy Chalamet as Bond and Idris Elba as Q, playing against type.
they're both great actors.
yeah.
Were you getting funding from Chalamet? What's going on over there?
I like
They're
Timothy
both
Chalamet.
great actors.
I'm a Shala fan.
May I move us on to the next topic? Sony is moving forward with The Social Network Part 2.
Boy, because we loved how
Like
the
the
first
what?
one happened.
From Paul. Social Network Part 2 has Aaron Sorkin attached to write, does not have David Fincher attached to direct.
Is it, and so they have confirmed that we are continuing to hear the ongoing tales of somebody who we already hear too much about.
Yes, that is correct. It's going to pick up where we left off. I don't know. Is it going to be about the rise of Meta and Zuckerberg?
That is. I still don't know how I feel about like historical things that are currently unfolding. We got the
Yeah.
OpenAI movie coming up, and I it feels weird to me, but I don't know if it's
Part 2
bias
is
'cause I'm
supposed
too
to draw
old.
inspiration from the Facebook Files, which is series on Wall Street Journal that explored all the social harms. So it'll be all about like how.
So this is their Empire Strikes Back, where it's like, oh my gosh, the bad guys.
Oh
are
my
us.
gosh, you are Mark Zuckerberg.
I mean, but it's not like the social network ended with like a redemption arc for Zuckerberg. It ended with him corrupted and evil, and so now it'll be like he's like twirling his mustache, saying, "And next, teen girls."
so you're saying the original social network was Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, I don't know. That seems a bit odd. A lot of these movies that are like business intrigue. Oddly enough, I think the OpenAI debacle makes a better movie because you do actually have a
and they
really
are doing
intense,
a movie on that too. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see whether or not it gets made, but like it was announced as being circled. But at least that as a story, if you tell it straight, has a surprising incident, a bunch of power players that are fighting behind the scenes, and then a surprising resolution that makes sense. I don't know if there's a thing from that source material, which is like largely, I guess, people deciding, no, we're going to keep up the engagements on Facebook and Instagram by highlighting harmful material.
A lot
that
of
people
walk and
can't get
talks
enough.
about analytics. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know though. Like if the second movie is about social harm, so again, thinking of The Empire Strikes Back, the first one, like the protagonist won, whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy. The protagonist won. The second one is the protagonists get their ass handed to them. So this could be the, oh dear, you've won, but at what cost to society? This could be nothing but highlighting in very visceral, real ways the social harms and the fallout of the protagonist's victory in the first one. And maybe we just end it at Act 2 in a curious
how do you
way.
keep it interesting and not make Zuckerberg a cartoon villain?
So we want our protagonist to be likable. So imagine this machine of his own creation. He is trapped and powerless, watching that what he thought was the right direction. So this first movie is he won. Second movie is, now that you won, what are you going to do? Something good. Act 1, Arab Spring. Act 2, bad thing, series of trials.
2016
society.
election.
And then it's like, can you at least do can at least one good thing come out of this disaster in your trapped box and show that you can affect the world around you? And then that's how the movie ends.
It's why do people hate us? Kind of. Yeah.
The funny thing is that movies like this we've yet to kind of see the reverberations of what would almost assuredly influence them, which is Succession, which was like the last big thing that everybody knows as like behind the boardroom, big ego kind of fighting. That is the kind of thing that was kind of introduced. It's like that, but with nerds in the Social Network. I don't know. I mean, Facebook's an interesting company. I don't know if it's a movie unless you just make things up. Although,
well, that's the thing.
The first one,
the articles are very much like they're doing this bad thing, but it's not a lot of like, here's what they said. It's more of a here's what the study was circulating.
Yeah, or it's like all right, well, what's the inciting incident?
Yeah,
what's our
2016 election? It's Cambridge Analytica. That's got to be the
but
inciting.
It's like that
incident.
is actually. I mean, I don't know. You can make up a fantasy version that could be dramatic, but the reality of it is just like so not.
That's what I'm.
Well, no, okay, but again, like we have movies where a protagonist in one movie becomes essentially no longer a character, but a elemental force in a second movie, right? So the first movie is about a person creates Facebook, but now it could be the perfect storm, and Facebook is just the monster. It's a monster movie at this point, and Facebook is the monster, and it's about the people having to reckon with that. I to be honest, I'm talking myself into this being possibly really good.
Yeah. Well, call Aaron Sorkin.
I have notes. I can't get him to walk and talk with me though.
Finally, Lilo and Stitch live action movie was a huge hit. Brought a lot of people in the theater, made records amount of money, and so they're doing a sequel.
That was a Disney Plus throwaway initially, right?
Yeah. And they put it in the theater instead, yeah.
Now, the Lilo and Stitch is a new story or a retelling of the original?
The original was a retelling of the original, but now they're going to do a sequel.
Right. So how many of you, and we'll report for the audio listeners, hands in the air if in general you are okay with all of these animated movies just being straight up remade shot for shot in real life. Do you like it or not like it?
I would expect everyone to say, no, I don't like it. That's the usual response.
Okay.
But they make lots of money.
Yeah, I guess I don't mind it, man. It's like a song I've heard before played again.
It's a cover.
Yeah, a live version. It's
How many of you like cover songs? Yeah, more hands went up that time.
Yeah.
Basically, no hands went up the first time when we talked about the live
that was
action.
my fault.
Also, apparently this one was good.
Yeah.
They made some
They made some changes, yeah.
to like the story, but also when people are angry about changes that were made to a story, it means that they're invested. That was not what we heard. I mean, people were mad about changes that were made to Snow White, but then everybody was like, this movie also just stinks. So like nobody really cared. It was just like, oh, this is a bad movie.
They made the right changes with Lilo and Stitch, it sounds like.
I mean, it certainly got people into the theaters.
Yeah.
And you're seeing...
My sister-in-law loved the animated as a kid, was the target for like, okay, let's see what they did. I want to show it to my children, and loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to The Buried Treasure.
Most people buried treasure.
Buried Treasure is the segment where we talk about things we've been watching so that people might say like, oh, that sounds interesting. I might add that to my watch list. Brian?
Yeah,
what have you been watching?
more of the usual suspects. I think we already talked this week about this week's Rick and Morty. It continues to be good, if a little bit consistent. It went from a surprising delight to an old, reliable Irish whiskey blend. It's very consistent.
If you enjoy Rick and Morty, you'll enjoy more Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I'm with it, man.
Yeah, you with it?
Oh, yeah. No, it's great. It's like, and maybe it's because it, like, I don't know if it makes sense to people that don't get the references that whenever they change genres, and I'm like, oh, it's a blank movie. It's like one half parody, one half
Homage,
a spin on it, but it's like when it just turned into a like it's a mad world episode a few weeks ago. I was just like oh, that's awesome. Like, because also it's a very weird genre. A bunch of different avatars race dramatically for a arbitrary money prize. Like, I don't know. It fits well. I'm glad that it exists.
Rick and Morty fans out there?
You have to have a very high IQ.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're
we
throwing
got some
something at you.
squinting
Yeah.
nods.
Yeah. Do you have one, Justin? You want to throw in here?
Yeah,
I've
what
got
are
a
you
couple.
watching?
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier today. I finished the HBO Max documentary series. It's a two-parter on Pee Wee Herman. I believe it's called Pee Wee as Himself.
Got a clap for that one.
Yeah, it's an interesting piece of work because it was a documentary that was shot before Paul Rubens died. He never told the documentary filmmakers that he had cancer, and then he dropped out of the doc before it was completed and before the final interviews were done because he had creative differences with the documentarian. It's not the full picture, and I think that the documentary, knowing that this was going to be in many ways kind of a final word on his life and career, did not go places that they probably would have gone otherwise if he were still alive. Specifically, the most interesting thing in the doc for me that I did not know before was that he had a tremendous falling out with Phil Hartman, who was Captain Carl in the original Pee-wee stage show and in the first season of the movie. It's not really addressed, and neither of them are now here to talk about it, nor is it really explored by other people. But it also reveals Paul Rubens to be a bit of a provincial creative. He very much was a credit minded guy. He was obsessed with the idea that Tim Burton might have gotten too much credit for Pee-wee's Big Adventure, for example. And that's why he wrote Pee-wee's Big Top with a writer that he hired. And it wasn't as good because Phil Hartman co-wrote Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So yeah, it's a, if you are a fan of Pee Wee Herman, there's a lot of really, really good stuff in there. It gives you a great slice of life of who Paul Rubens was. I've known a few people that knew him toward the end of his life and had glowing things to say about him. You get that part of his personality. But man, there's another part of that. There's another dimension to this story that if you are a fan of him or that kind of comedy, or even just want to find out his version of some of his lesser, his downfall, his two arrests, there's more left on the table there that I wish were covered, but I can understand why they made the decisions they made.
I've been watching The Bear. Any
Bear.
fans of The Bear on Hulu? Okay, that's the most popular one so far.
They wrapped up the new season, right?
Yeah, they dropped the entire third season at once. So I have not finished all of it.
Okay.
It starts with a flashback and then throws you into basically the next thing that was happening after the end of last season. So it feels very much like a continuation, although they're telegraphing like this is the theme we're going to treat as we continue this story. It's a third season, so it's the third chapter. It's if you like The Bear, you're getting the more of the story. To me, Rick and Morty is more like, hey, if you like this flavor, this is more flavor. With The Bear, it's not so much flavor. It's like if you wanted to know what's happened next, this is the continuing of the story. Also, Squid Game, season 3, the final season of Squid Game dropped on Netflix. I have not finished that. I started it. It is also picking up where you left off. I didn't watch enough to really give you an idea of what I think. Eileen is fast forwarding through parts of it though.
Really?
Because she's watching it at home on her own, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not digging this as much." And headlines have said things like "leaves door open," and I wonder if that might be part of the problem.
Well, because also the first season was the last season.
Right. They didn't think they were doing another season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was a global sensation, and they're like, money, please.
Yeah. Well, and is it fair to say it's just a money grab, or is it like, hey, everybody loved this story,
No.
they want more of it?
If I made a story that I could get money for, I would keep
Sure,
making the story over
but-
and over again. Yeah, because people want it.
Is it always wrong when people love a thing to make more of it?
No, my point when I say money, please, in that effective voice is not to criticize the creator. It is just to acknowledge the fact that it would not happen unless there were somebody that had a gigantic check that started writing zeros at the end until they said yes.
And they wouldn't write the check if people didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So,
No, I don't begrudge Squid Game for making new seasons.
I guess the reason I'm reacting that way is I felt like the season
I was
2
talking shit about
was pretty good.
I didn't see it.
And I think people were looking at it through the lens of like, this is just a money grab, and I'm ready to not like it.
I will say
where
that-
season 3 feels like
A money grab.
maybe that was just a money grab.
I will say that I didn't get to season 2 immediately.
Yeah.
Because I kind of resented the narrative choice that they made at the end of season. Can I spoil the end of season 1 of Squid Game?
Cover your ears.
Cover your ears. Yeah, if you don't want to, then leave. But
Bye.
I thought a great element of Squid Game was that they spent a lot of time on an epilogue, that they kind of wrap up the game and then they spend it. Some of my favorite series, I would say The Wire probably did the best at this, where the biggest things that were narratively going to happen would happen in the second to last episode, and the last episode would be an epilogue, which if you were going to continue to tell the story is helpful because that means you don't have to have the first season of the first episode of the next season doing your epilogue. So
Right.
then you get your story started. But at the end of Squid Game, which is like the entire epilogue is about like, wow, Squid Game's fucked up, dude. It turns out the real Squid Game was the Squid Game inside of all of us. Man, the Squid Game is really, geez, it's the real struggle. And then the main character's like, I'm going back to the Squid Game. And it's like, well, that's stupid. You just want to do another season. And then they did
Squiddier.
another season.
Yeah, and they did. If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. This is the point in the story where we give Brian the chance to tell people about a weird thing he's been doing.
Yeah, dude. I'm really excited that everybody came out for this event. I guess I'm talking to both audiences at the same time. Thank you to everybody at home who let us promote it and talk it up. And thank you to everybody who made the trip and came out here. It's a strange called shot. It's a strange mission to shout from the rooftops, everyone has a weird thing. Here's what we've learned.
Yeah.
But I hope everyone's having a good time.
You know, it's honestly crazy to have been in this part of the show on Cordkillers promoting this workshop and then to be here and looking at the results of that in front of us. So big thanks. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening to this, keep an eye out on Brian's newsletter because that's where you're going to find out if you get a chance at this again.
Spoiler alert, I would love to do more of these. Also, spoiler alert, I'm trying to log in to get the emails because we forgot the email segments coming up. If you could two-step verify.
Yeah, I don't have access to that.
Oh, doggone it. None of us know. Yeah. Amos, where are you?
This is why Amos is sick, so we didn't have him for today. But
you know what? I'll tell you what.
Charlie from Missouri writes.
it's not time for the emails yet.
Yeah,
let's move on to scanning the horizon.
Scanning the horizon. Scanning the horizon.
This is the section of the show where we just talk about a few of the pieces of news that are out there that is kind of important to know to understand the space. Instagram and TikTok both going back to launching apps for TVs, according to The Verge. Because YouTube is doing so well on televisions now, not just on mobile. TikTok used to have an app for televisions, and then they backed off on it. Instagram has had an app for televisions in the past. They did not invest a lot in that, but it looks like they want to go back to that.
So I'm a little bit bummed for Atmosphere TV in this case because both TikTok and Instagram, if you think of them divorced from the app and divorced from their ecosystem and think of them as a brand, there's a flavor to each of those.
Yeah.
And that flavor is the chive. and so if I'm Atmosphere TV, then that seems like they could squeeze me out.
It's not for VOD. It's for live.
For live?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I
so that
take it
you can
back.
watch people live streaming on Instagram or TikTok
Oh,
in your
got it.
home. Yeah.
Now, okay, that's interesting. I guess, I don't know. In general, I am not a fan of either Instagram or TikTok in terms, they're fine for if you're paying to reach people, you'll get there. But in terms of building a cult following, I wouldn't advise, well, I don't know. It's a good place to get discovered.
I know a few people who do really well. They have big audiences streaming on both platforms.
Yeah, it's just for different kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times politicians do really, really well on both of those, but it's certainly more of a casual phone-based thing. It's not the kind of stuff that we do where it's like, here's a set, like here's a television style
One
product.
of the biggest things that people use it for is concerts. When Taylor Swift was doing the Eras tour, lots of people would stream from the concert.
Bootleg.
And then you could go. I don't even think it was bootlegged in the sense that I don't think they minded because it was just phone.
They weren't
video.
shutting it down.
Yeah. They weren't out there shutting it down. And then you could be like, oh, I'm such a huge fan. I want to see every stop and see what the changes in the songs are that she does at each stop. And then you could do that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. The BBC is introducing a paid service in the U.S. for $50 a year or $9 a month. It gives you access to most of the BBC News stories, so it's kind of a paywall like you get at the New York Times, but also gives you access to the streaming BBC News video channel. So it's a little bit of turning the BBC News channel in the U.S. into a paid streaming service. Non-paying users still access some stories as well as the BBC World Service, the BBC language services where they are broadcasting in non-English languages, as well as newsletters and podcasts.
Does this affect BritBox at all?
No, this is BBC News. BritBox is all dramas. And
But those are BBC
News.
programs, though. This would be just the
BritBox
news
is some
operating.
BBC programs. It also gets them from other sources as well.
So is it just the channel that airs in the UK, or is it BBC America?
No, it's BBC News.
News only.
I'm realizing they have a branding problem.
Yeah,
don't
they do. They really
because
do.
BBC News is a worldwide channel, but it's not BBC World Service.
Gotcha.
But it's their 24/7 news channel.
News
And yeah,
channel.
it is
It's
the
the
BBC.
same feed that brings us like the NPR hour that they run.
No. So would it be the one that I get on YouTube TV?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You could pay to get that on its own, as well as get access to all their print stories.
Not worth it. Spoiler alert, not worth it.
I know we have a couple of fans of BBC programming. Anybody would want to
Now,
pay
in your
to
face,
get
British
this?
people.
Yeah, nobody. I have found BBC News, since they've run into a funding program, to be doing news that I'm less interested in because they're trying to get people's attention instead of
Audience
doing what the
capture.
BBC is known for.
Yeah.
DirecTV is experimenting with removing the option to subscribe to its satellite offering in some markets, just to see what happens. So
Okay.
DirecTV still offers you the ability to put a satellite dish on your roof and get your TV the way you used to, or you can just sign up for their streaming service. You get all the same programming options, but just streamed to your Roku or your smart TV or whatever. And so in some markets in the US, they're trying, when you go to sign up, satellite isn't available, but you can sign up for this streaming service and we'll send you a box if you don't have a Roku or something like that. They also added a new carriage deal with Paramount, which adds Nickelodeon program and a kids bundle because they're trying to do these skinny bundle things as well. But the big news here is them saying like, hey, maybe we don't need to operate the satellite. Let's take the first baby step towards that.
Now, is satellite infrastructure such that them not using it frees up usable compute or something that other
It's
people
less costly because, I mean, eventually if you don't have to operate the satellites, that's less costly. But also it's way less costly to sign someone up for a streaming service than have to send them a dish and keep that maintained. Yeah. Prime Video is increasingly using generative models to enhance in-app viewing. So this is the kind of thing where you want a recap of a show that you abandoned, and they're using generative models to create the edits of the recap. Some language dubbing is being done this way. So if you speak a language that it was not recorded in, they could add that language to it faster without having to hire and wait for people to record it. There's also search topics. So, you know, when you type in a search topic, it's better at trying to find the things that are better for you to find.
This is actually an aspect, a use of AI that I am extremely bullish on. And this is Brian Head. I know you can correct me on the technical side of things, but in the 20th, in the 1800s, we had, you know, I don't know, steam gates, right? And then in the 20th century, we had if-then gates, right? And in the 21st century, we have ish gates, right? where now, thanks to generative AI models, it's like, I understand the whole world is very interested in something called the big show finale of a thing called Game of Thrones. You, computer agent, know my entire back catalog of history. You know what things I know and don't know. Can you construct, let's see how much time I got. I don't know, construct for me 5 nights of programming at 90 minutes per night that pretty much gets me all the way caught up. Like, in other words, an extremely tailored version of the experiment that we're doing with the full experience that leads me up to where real time I can be caught up with all of humanity to pretty much enjoy the finale as much as everyone else. I would love where that would go.
They kept saying that AI would take our jobs, and now it seems very clear that it has taken one from me, explaining where we are in Cobra Kai. Now it's going to just explain to my wife for me, like, oh, Karate Man was doing the karate thing, and then he went to kick the karate person, and then now they're in Barcelona for some reason. Anyway, here's the next episode.
And also from Amazon, Prime Video trying to pitch the benefit of Amazon Channel's marketplace to content partners. So Amazon Channel Marketplace is when, if you're a Prime Video subscriber, you can say, oh, I want to add BritBox or I want to add Stars, and it all comes in your Amazon bill and is attached to your Prime Video app. They're saying it's not bundling, it's a la carte TV.
Okay. Unpack that again for me.
Bundling is bad, Brian.
Yes.
Bundling is cable.
I don't think it is.
It's not that. That's
No.
bad.
Okay.
It's a la carte TV. That's what everybody wants. I want to choose my channels.
Yeah, but I don't want to choose anything. That's work. I don't want you to hand me work. Look, the problem I had with
think
cable
you missed
was
the
not
part where I said bundling is bad and a la carte is good.
Oh, okay. All right. Look, the problem I had with cable was not the fact that you could watch everything. It's that they had onerous contracts that locked me in. Let's go back to me never having to decide anything. I don't want to do work.
People say, but one of the big complaints about cable is I just want to pay for the channels I want, and that's what Amazon is saying we can do.
This was the point of your show.
Nah.
This was the whole point of your show.
I don't remember.
This is what you did.
No, that doesn't ring. That doesn't sound like me.
Anyway, I think I think this story is mostly interesting because they're pitching this.
Here's a picture of you with a bundling is bad tattoo on your
I
face.
swear, baby, it wasn't me.
I think what's interesting is this.
Swedish-made penis enlarger pumps and bundling is bad. Yes, that is my bag, baby. By Brian Brushwood.
They are pitching this to the people who provide the channels, not to us. And I think that's really interesting because it's two things. It's signaling because they know other people like us are going to read this, like, oh, it's a la carte TV. That's what I've said I want. But it's also telling the channel makers, you should come to us because we get it. We get what people want, and we want to let you keep control of your channel. We don't want to subsume it into our own thing like cable did. So please make Amazon the place where you provide your channel, because the one thing that we are covering right now in process is there is a fight to become the place where you get all your streaming services. Cable companies are adding Hulu and Peacock to cable. So as part of your cable subscription, you now get Peacock and Hulu at no extra charge, except they'll raise your rate later, but you won't notice it then. And we are also seeing Amazon and Apple TV and YouTube try to be the place that says, oh no, use us. You can get all the channels. Nobody has all the channels yet, but everybody's trying to be that place. And that's
here's the reality, and Brian and I have talked about this a lot, and it's either going to happen on one of these platforms, or it's going to happen on your credit card, or it's going to happen on an Apple TV, or it's going to be one of these platforms that says, we will cancel things for you when you're not watching them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we will resubscribe to them when you want to watch it. For you, it will be a frictionless experience. It will always be like you subscribe to everything.
And every channel is going to resist letting anyone do that, which is why nobody's done it yet.
But that's why it's going to have to happen on either hardware or on payment.
Yeah, on device, local. It'll be black boxed. Like, as far as the companies know, just Brian Brushwood is extremely engaged and pays a lot of attention to when he subscribes and unsubscribes to things.
Or it'll be Amex. It'll be something where it's like if you give Amex control of knowing what you watch and what you interact with,
that is a good fit. Yeah,
then they'll be like, we'll save you money. We don't give a shoot. We're Amex.
Yeah, thank you for not cursing.
Flip you.
I do.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's fine. You're welcome.
This is what Brian was worried about earlier. Usually we finish the show with the chatter, which is where we have emails that we check in. But we've got a live audience
mail.
here.
That's right. Okay, so if you guys ever have any kind of questions about the post cord killing universe, this is a rare opportunity where we get to find out what we like to call normal humans have questions about. So whoever has a question, just come on up and we'll get you on mic. Oh my goodness, guys, you wouldn't believe how many people are coming.
No
Fighting
shoving.
each other. The special effects are extraordinary. How expensive.
VO2.
All these extras.
So mine's not a question, but it's something that Brian told me that was covered in the show, and it saved me a lot of money. And that was, I actively watch every 2 months and cancel everything and only renew
the chicken challenge
when there's something that I want to watch again. And that has been a real money saver for us. And we give ourselves permission. It's like, you know what, I want to watch Iron Man. And it's like, oh, we don't have it anywhere and it's not streaming anywhere, but it's $10 to rent it or to buy it, or $3 to rent it. We just rent that.
Yeah.
And that scenario, I don't know if people have been reminded of that, but boy, it's saved us a lot of money in the last year or so.
Yeah. If you could
cancel everything.
Yep. Cancel everything and then buy it again. There's no penalty. It turns out they don't mind when you buy it again.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing I think it's hard to wrap our heads around when we've been used to it not working that way, is you can cancel it. You keep it until the end of your pay period. So you don't actually lose it the minute you cancel it.
You just notice later.
And then if you notice later, oh, wait, it's not working because I forgot I canceled it, then you can just resubscribe and you get it immediately.
Yeah. We have another question. His name is Max, but I'm unilaterally renaming him to HBO Max.
I'll take it, especially with the checks that come with it. But my question, I want to bring us back kicking and screaming to the subject of C-SPAN.
Yeah.
So I want to make a devil's advocate argument here. Is it a good thing for all of that stuff that happens in Congress to be televised? Because I know people who have said that the fact that all of these politicians know that people are like watching them and their constituents are watching them and all this stuff makes them far more theatrical and far more performative when they're talking about things that should be, I think, more serious and more carefully thought out and more reasonable, rational arguments, rather than like screaming talking points because this is terrible, for my fans who are watching. And, so Is that a good counter argument? Is there anything there? Should we be this excited about having C-SPAN continue?
Yes. The longer answer to that, because we're kind of veering into a more political side of it. If what you're worried about is platform for politicians to behave badly, the horse is so far out of that barn in a world where social media exists and guest hosting on podcasts and stuff like that exists. Like, yes, putting cameras in Congress oftentimes makes for bigger spectacles, but also it covers a lot of hearings that are a lot more staid as well, and they make those available as well. And if there were not a persistent drive for somebody to chronicle this, then we wouldn't get any of it. And I think that using the worst examples to color all of it is probably unfair, considering how much they cover and how rich that resource is. To Tom's point, it's their archive is everything that's been said in Congress since the 80s.
Yeah, and you need to weigh harms, right? Yes, that is a harm. Is it a greater harm to have all of Congress done where you can't see it? You know, which is the greater harm? To have a government that operates in secret, or a government that might be performative sometimes? And Jen Briney, who does the Congressional Dish, is a great resource for finding out that there's a lot of stuff that isn't done in front of the cameras on purpose because they don't want it done. And as Justin just said, there's a lot of stuff that's done in front of the cameras, but they don't figure anybody's really going to pick it up, and you see people acting in a different way, but still get the information.
Yes.
All right, Matt.
I was wondering what y'all's thoughts were. It was that back. I was wondering what y'all's thoughts were with companies now, since they own a movie and you are now owning less physical media or owning less media in general. Just what are y'all's thoughts on piracy or going to like Internet Archive for like as an alternative?
Sure. I think we see the answer in music, which is make it easy for people to get the thing they want most of the time, and most people won't pirate. You don't see people pirating music nearly as much as they used to. And streaming services are trying to do the same, which is like, let's make sure that the stuff people want the most is easy to get. And while piracy has been going up as a reaction to streaming services raising their prices, I think that's totally predictable. It's still not a very large percentage.
Yeah.
And also, there's a bias to inflate the losses. I'm putting scare quotes around losses from piracy,
that too, yeah.
because oftentimes they presume if everybody had bought, and it's like, no, dummy. And of course, then in the
a
case
lot of people pirate who would never have bought. So you can't call that a lost sale all the time.
And every so often you get a strange artifact. Like there was a time that HBO absolutely refused to have any legal way to stream Game of Thrones. But then they also loudly touted that Game of Thrones was the most pirated show on all of the Pirate Bay. And I think that was a very savvy PR move that got the word out that they have quality programming, while they were able to play the victim and distract from the fact that they were charging onerous rights debt to cable.
We have
No,
another.
you know, we're out of time.
Oh,
No,
unfortunately.
We got one more.
We got one more.
No, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matt Donnelly.
Hey-oh.
Oh, look at that! Listen to that.
Yeah,
Kind of
more
applause I
people
got.
like Matt than James Bond.
It was like I made a putt. That was really nice. yeah. Hole one putt is what I just got the applause there. So like everyone keeps talking about the death of television. And you know, like all of these, I'm a late night talk show guy, right? So I love my Johnny Carson back in the day, and now I love my Kimmel and Fallon and Colbert. And one of the coolest things that's happened with the modern world is that I get to watch all of them, and I don't have to choose one to be on or whatever. And even John Oliver on HBO, they experiment with taking his show off of YouTube. And to see what that would happen, what would happen, and then they put it back on YouTube, being like YouTube actually didn't hurt his ratings or help his ratings.
Yeah,
and yet, like, do you see like we keep hearing about the death of TV or whatever? Eventually, do you foresee companies being like, you know what, we're not going to pay to advertise on the channel at the time that you're airing, and not get any of the YouTube stuff, and that's where everyone's watching these shows now. Do you see a model where because it seems like TV's not dying the way we think it's going to die. Do you feel like there's a way to bridge the gap between those two things, those two models that are conflicting with each other right now?
Well, do remember that at the very beginning, in that first 2-hour block, which seems like a lifetime ago, yesterday morning, we talked about how brands are constantly diverging, right? Oftentimes nothing ever really dies. You know, vinyl is still alive and kicking for a very specific niche of people. And I
Tell
think
that to wax cylinders.
yeah, exactly, right?
We're gonna get wax.
But I think the experience of a high fidelity waterfall experience. Are we getting rain? That's amazing. High fidelity
of a
waterfall
waterfall
experience. 4D podcasting. We recently, a few months ago, covered the story that for the very first time, YouTube had more people watching in their living rooms than they did on mobile. And if you think about the fact that most households have only 1 or 2 TVs versus, 3 to 5 different mobile devices, that is truly extraordinary. So what I'm hopeful is that a traditional television-like experience will be alive and well, only it will be, it will reduce choice paralysis and the burden of finding the good stuff, because again, with that almost psychic-like YouTube algorithmic ABCDE testing, an idea that can make can burst onto the scene and make its way onto your television, and it can be the right idea and the right story for you.
If you count YouTube as television, which more and more people are using YouTube as television, there is more TV than ever before. And there is, even if you don't count YouTube, I think there's more TV than ever before and higher quality shows in greater numbers than ever before, even though we're down from peak TV. So I think what we're seeing is just a transformation of what people are going to consider as TV as it changes.
To your specific genre, however, I do think that what is going to happen over the next 15 years is that the late night show, quote unquote, which is a bygone relic of a variety vaudeville kind of aesthetic, that is going to be less and less understood as a thing that happens literally late at night, and more something that a certain kind of people like that it is. And we're already seeing some of this with the Mulaney
show that's what
on
I was going to
Netflix,
bring up.
which is very influenced by
Mulaney's Netflix show is late night television, just not streamed late at night.
And also, it's like the people that love that format the most, including people like me and Matt, we don't stay up late anymore. We watch it in the morning. It is the new morning show.
Yeah.
Like, it is a thing that you watch on YouTube the next day.
And the fact that clips from all those shows are hugely
dominant,
popular. Yeah,
huge, gigantic. So I do think that, like, it will always exist. It will be the new morning show, but people will still be wearing suits, and my daughter will have no idea why.
Yeah. And at some point, someone will try the cool idea in the future of streaming it live at night, and people will think it's amazing.
Because that's live is more popular than ever.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You look at Twitch and stuff like that, like people, YouTube Live, like the reason why all these apps are putting their things back on television are because live matters.
Justin Robert Young, thank you for joining us. Tell folks listening and here in the audience where they can find more of you.
Well, you can find my interview with Sam Feist on Politics last week. And you can find me on social media, Justin R. Young on YouTube, Politics. And then in your hearts.
And over your shoulder.
Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we are live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, usually on Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. I reckon we'll talk to you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you've enjoyed this program. I don't sound like that.
Okay, so that's the show.